All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Jonah Lustig. I'm here with Joanna Chen. We are both doctoral interns at Jefferson Center City Clinic for Behavioral Medicine, where we do DBT therapy and ACT therapy, RO-DBT, other things as well. A lot of kinds of therapies that involve acceptance. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is how acceptance can actually be a really helpful strategy to manage fear and anxiety, particularly as they come up in relation to the holidays. So why acceptance? Why do we want to try accepting things like fear and anxiety? They're uncomfortable, and our natural inclination can often be to try and resist them. But there's actually some interesting research in psychology that is suggesting that resisting negative emotions and thoughts can actually make these experiences even more distressing. So an analogy that I like is thinking about a finger trap. I don't know if anyone has used one of these before. There's a picture up, but you put your both fingers into either side, and then they'll get stuck once they're inside. And no matter how hard you pull and resist and try and get away, there's actually a counterintuitive solution where you actually push your fingers together, and that allows for there to be enough space for you to escape the finger trap. And we can kind of think about our relationship to negative thoughts and emotions in a similar way. If we spend a lot of time resisting and pulling and trying to get away from them, it might actually make it us even more stuck with these anxiety emotions and fear. So it's helpful sometimes to think of our brain as something that's trying to help us. Our brain actually does a lot of useful things for us, even if sometimes we want to turn it off. For example, anxiety and fear can prepare us for future challenges. Um, the holidays are stressful by themselves, and during a pandemic, there's so many more worries that can come up, and we want to validate that. Will my loved ones and I get sick? Is it safe to celebrate with other people? How will I let this person know that, usually I celebrate with, that I'm not okay doing it this year? These are really understandable, difficult thoughts and experiences to have around the time of the holidays. But sometimes it might actually be more helpful to kind of appreciate our brain for giving us these thoughts. While they may be distressing, our brain is actually trying to protect us. It's trying to help us by showing us some things that we're maybe concerned about and may need to address. So it can be, while the temptation can be to fight and to resist, let's try something else. And we'll try an exercise right here where we're going to say thank you instead to our brain. So for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to ask if you can go ahead and just listen to your thoughts. Just listen. You don't have to change them. You don't have to think about anything particularly. Just listen to your thoughts for 30 seconds. And after each kind of complete thought, just thank yourself. Say thank you. Thank your brain for providing you a thought, something to think about. Let's go ahead and try it right now. All right. Well, thanks to everyone who's willing to give that a go. The idea here is, remember, we are trying to thank our brain for thinking. It is something that's useful and valuable for us. And we want to try and change that relationship that we have with ourselves so that we're not fighting ourselves when we're experiencing things like fear and anxiety. And I just quickly want to cover a couple of, I just want to clarify a few things about acceptance, because acceptance is not giving up, and it's not saying pain is inevitable and we always have to be in a lot of pain and we just have to suck it up and deal with it. It's not saying that we're okay when maybe there are, incidents of injustice where people go against our values. We're not saying that we just have to accept that and take it. It's not running away from our problems either. Acceptance is validating our fears and our concerns. It's validating our negative thoughts and our worries and our emotions. It's acknowledging that sometimes life can be difficult and sometimes we don't know what the answer is in a situation, and that's okay. Knowing that there's so much outside of our control. If anyone feels like they have this pandemic within their control, let me know, because I certainly don't. And there's a lot that's, I think, outside of our control. And so sometimes accepting that and acknowledging that can be really helpful. And acceptance is living in accordance with our values. It's trying to find a path forward that works for ourselves while, allowing ourselves to navigate these difficult experiences of fear and stress and anxiety. So we do want to we don't want to say, oh, we're giving up, everything is hard all the time. We do want to try and change things to make our lives, to improve our lives, and let our lives be in accordance with our values. But when it comes to things that are, kind of naturally going to happen, like negative emotions, things that are inside of ourselves, things that are outside of our control, sometimes accepting those can be a really helpful strategy. Now I'm going to pass it off to Joanna, who will talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and when things are outside of our control and or when we're trying to solve problems and it's actually not working or it's actually backfiring on us, that's when acceptance can be a really good alternative strategy. And when we are really experiencing painful emotions, whether that's fear or anxiety, or maybe even sadness or grief, the first instinct for a lot of us is to get rid of them or to suppress them or to fight them in some way. And that's only natural because, like Jonah said, our brains are trying to help us. We're trying to problem solve everything and out of the problems. But then the situation we end up in is kind of like we're in this tug of war with this huge monster that stands for all of these painful emotions. And then between us is this pit that is bottomless and as far as we can tell. And if we get pulled into the pit, we're going to be destroyed. And so we pull and pull on this rope, trying to, one, not fall into the pit, and two, to try to get the monster into the pit. And we think maybe if we just get the technique right, maybe if we're strong enough, the monster is going to fall and I never have to see the monster again. And I never have to hear what it has to say to me again. So we pull and we pull, we try different ways to pull. We try to pull stronger, but nothing's working because the monster stands there no matter what. And you can see the size difference too. The monster's so much bigger than what we are. So while we're doing this, what's the price that we're paying? If I'm holding on to this rope and trying to get the monster into the pit, I can't hold a baby if I wanted to. I can't go cuddle up with my cat. I can't go sit on my couch and watch my favorite TV show or crochet or read my favorite novel because my hands are tied literally onto this rope. So the pulling here really represents all the unhelpful strategies we try to use to run away from these internal experiences like fear and anxiety during COVID and fear and anxiety during the holidays. So we may turn to unhelpful coping strategies, we may turn to problematic behaviors, we may even lash out at loved ones so that we can feel angry instead of pain. And all of these things are actually what keeps us stuck. So what else can we do? We can maybe drop the rope here. And in this case, the monster actually doesn't go into the pit. You can see the monster just kind of lays there. But as soon as we drop the rope, we're now free to engage in whatever we want to do. I can go hold my cat. I can go give my partner a hug. But the monster is still going to be there and may even taunt you from time to time. It may yell at me and be like, "What are you doing? Pick up the rope again." And it may get really loud and really obnoxious. But as long as I'm not picking the rope back up and I'm not engaging with it, it can't hurt me in any way. It can't pull me into the pit. And I'm now free to engage in things I care about deeply. So that's kind of the concept of radical acceptance here as an alternative way out of misery. So again, we're not saying that we need to stop solving our problems and just lay down and take it, but this could be an alternative for if our problem solving or the ways that we're trying to cope with them by avoiding these emotions is actually keeping us stuck in these painful emotions. So we want to turn to radical acceptance when things are what they are, even if they're painful, if they cannot be changed right now. So kind of like being stuck in traffic. You can honk, you can yell at the driver in front of you, but nothing's going to get you out of the traffic. So in these cases, if we're having the pain and we're pulling on the rope and struggling with it, now we have pain and we have suffering. So, what radical acceptance will look like is really opening yourself to fully experiencing reality as they are in any one given moment, letting go of all resistance, dropping the rope completely. So that includes certain thoughts that you're saying to yourself from, it shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't feel this anxious. I shouldn't feel this sad during this time, to saying, this is what happened. This is my anxiety today. This is what I'm afraid of today. And you may even change your body posture. So fully accepting you, and by unclenching your muscles, by relaxing your body posture. And these are all strategies that are kind of along the lines of fake it till you make it. So you might act as if you're someone that's already accepted reality. So I'll ask myself the question, what would someone who has accepted things as they are do? So this person's probably not clenching and being really tense. This person's probably more relaxed and have more relaxed body posture. And so doing this will in time help me actually accept reality. Another thing we can do is imagine believing what we don't want to accept and then rehearse in our mind what we would do if we had already believed reality. Because oftentimes radical acceptance is really hard if we think the reality is going to be a catastrophe. So imagining ourselves coping with reality brilliantly can replace that fear of reality with a sense of mastery. And through all of this, feelings of painful emotions like anxiety and fear and sadness and grief are going to come up. See if you can notice these emotions and not work on them. Try your best to not suppress it right away. Because having painful emotions like anxiety and fear actually really tells us valuable information. It tells us that we care deeply about something, otherwise, we wouldn't feel this way. It tells us that there are things in life that matter to us. For example, if I'm feeling a lot of fear and worry about my family's health, that means that these are people I really love and care about deeply, and that's not a bad thing. And this is what all humans feel when there's a gap between what we want and what we've got. I want my family to stay safe and have no concerns for COVID, but there is that very real concern, and that's why I feel this sense of anxiety and fear for them. So having certain painful emotions and having pain in general is actually a really basic and universal characteristic of all human lives, especially right now. And it's really hard to be a human being right now, going through COVID and with the holidays, which for a lot of people can be really stressful. So it's important to remind ourselves that our lives can still be worth living even when there's pain. All humans experience some kind of pain, and we can still build something that's meaningful to us and that's fulfilling to us through all of this. So try to have some compassion for ourselves and remind ourselves that this is all universal and everyone experiences to a certain extent. And like the monster, it's not gonna be able, none of these emotions can hurt us unless we pick up the rope and engage with it and try to fight it. So during this holiday season, I hope that we can all practice some this balance between change and acceptance, and do what we can to change the things that we can change, and then accept what we can't change. I hope everyone is taking care of yourselves during this time. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.